back again for another episode of Faith in Homebuying. I'm always super excited, but I'm super excited again because we have a great guest today, Jessica Woodworth, and she's from Grace Hope Flowers, and she's actually the owner of Grace Hope Flowers. I call her a master flower cultivator. And Jessica, just say hi for a second.
Hi.
You know, it's a pleasure to have you here, and thank you for just agreeing to come on because with the home buying process, I do have clients a lot that talk about gardening. They talk about flowers, and they may have a green thumb, or they finally say, I have a home now. I want to start a process of a garden, and not really having any tips or knowledge of that information. I said, let's just bring here an expert in order to figure this out and talk about some things, and hopefully in the end they can call you and talk to you about some things that are ideas that they have, and hopefully frequent your business. So that being said, usually in the beginning I start off, we kind of have a little bit of a structure, right? So activate, educate, and empower. So the first part of activation, which I think is highly important, right, is the Word of God. And it just so happens that God does talk about, in the Bible it does talk about flowers. And considering what we're going through right now with, just everything with people worrying, I figured this would be actually an appropriate scripture to kind of talk about and to open us up with. And, I think through the theme of what we're going to talk about, what's weaved inside there is really being able to cultivate and assure ourselves in a lot of the things that we're doing. Even when it comes to flowers, when it comes to plant, there's patience. There's believing that what you plant in the ground is going to rise up how it should. There's a lot of things that when you don't see it, then trusting the fact that what comes up is going to be the very thing that I planted, right? So that being said, Matthew 6:25 through 34 is where I'm going to be in. I love my TPT version. So yes, so don't worry. So verse 25, this is why I tell you to never be worried about your life. For all that you need will be provided, such as food, water, clothing, everything your body needs. Isn't there more to your life than a meal? Isn't your body more than clothing? Verse 26, look at all the birds. Do you think they worry about their existence? They don't plant or reap or store up food, yet your heavenly Father provides them each with food. Aren't you much more valuable to your Father than they? So which one of you by worrying could add anything to your life? And why would you worry about your clothing? Look at all the beautiful flowers of the field. They don't work or toil, and yet not even Solomon in all his splendor was robbed in beauty more than one of these. So if God has clothed the meadow with hay, which is here for such a short time and then dried up and burned, won't he provide you with the clothes you need, and even though you live with such little faith? So then, forsake your worries. Why would you say, what will we eat, or what will we drink, or what will we wear? For that is what the unbelievers chase after. Doesn't your heavenly Father already know the things your body require? So above all, constantly chase after the realm of God's kingdom and the righteousness that proceeds from him. Then all these less important things will be given to you abundantly. Refuse to worry about tomorrow, but deal with each challenge that comes your way, one day at a time. Tomorrow will take care of itself.
It's beautiful.
Isn't it? Right?
That's been resounding in my head so often lately. Yeah.
Absolutely. You could talk about it too if you really want to. But I just like to open it up with that, right? I know we're talking about plants, we're talking about flowers, but there's just so much more to it, even than that. Kind of what we talked about before, like when he talks about, look at the beautiful flowers of the field, right? They don't work or toil, and yet they still, come up with their vibrance and their love and their luster. And it's even when, and again, I don't plant, but I'm assuming, especially when you cultivate like a multitude of flowers, right? The expectation is what I put into the ground, the nutrients that I've given, the seed that has actually been planted. What's going to come up from that is going to spring forth exactly what I expect it to be. The beauty, the splendor, and the type of plant that I've already planted.
Yeah.
And let me ask you, do you worry about what you plant into the ground?
Sometimes,
Mhm.
sometimes I do, because they're always surprising you. But yeah, just having that peace that God is our ultimate provider, and that He cares for us way more than even I care about my little plant babies. Yeah, it's just really it's so encouraging to me. So
Exactly. And, you know, and right now, you know, kind of what we're dealing with, you know, as far as the virus is concerned and such, you know, even in that sense, right, like you know, of course, there's precautions that you should take. There's things that, you know, you probably shouldn't do because it really is something that's actually going on. I mean, and if you haven't been doing it already, and I think this is for society letting us know that, yeah, a lot of people don't wash their hands. I'm serious. I think we're finding out that a lot of people probably don't wash their hands like they should. And I think after, hopefully everything dies down, you know, thank God that, you know, hopefully working on a cure and things of that nature. But it's just a thought to think we take everyday things for granted that we really should be doing, and yet I think it kind of shines a light on, hey, if you haven't been doing this, this is one of the reasons why it's important. It's important to wash your hands. It's important to take, you know, precautions even when you're sneezing or when you're around people or you're in, you know, close proximity to people. Don't just, you know, wipe your face with your hand when you're touching all over public, you know, transportation. There are actually precautions that you really should take, whether there's a pandemic or epidemic or not. You know, however, you know, it's the worry part. What good is it going to do in worrying and actually about, you know, where you go, what area that you go into, especially if you do have to work, even from home, right? You know, it's kind of interesting that I did an Instagram story about and people worrying and panicking about toilet paper.
yeah,
Toilet paper.
There's way other things that we should be worried about other than toilet paper. But
Like, if you're so worried about toilet paper, you know, I can think of some other things that you probably need to worry about. I mean, especially if it's a pandemic, you need to worry about your soul. I'm just saying. Like before toilet paper, you really need to worry about whether you're right with God. You really need to worry about, hey, like, if it does happen to come in my household and such, and if this is the way that I am to actually go out, if this is the way that God has, you know, ordained and predestined me to go out, how well is my soul? You know, how's my relationship with God? You know, is it one where I can actually say, Lord, no, I know you, and I'm not worried. So, because if it is my time to go, guess what? Guess where I'm going to be in the end of all of this? Yes, I'm probably going to miss my babies, my kids, my husband, and even the people, family around me. But you know what? I'm not worried. Because I know that God has me. I know that He's kept me. I know that I've been doing the things and cultivating my relationship, you know, as one, you know, as Him being the gardener in my life, right? He prunes things out of my life that don't need to be there. As long as I'm attached to the vine, like, I'm okay. I'm okay, and I'm not going to worry about that. I'm not going to worry about if I have toilet paper, you know, tomorrow, because, you know, technically you can use napkins.
leaves.
Leaves. Baby wipes.
Yeah, that's not going to be on our mind.
You know what I mean? Like,
but that we can trust
yes.
that God is in control.
Correct.
And that even in this, it's in His hands.
Yes,
I think
absolutely.
that's what we trust.
Absolutely. It's in His hands, and it's going to continue to be in His hands. So when we come back, I'm loving the fact, we're going to talk a little bit about how you got into flowers, because I know there's a little story to that, and even what the name of your company is. But then we're also going to talk about choosing a home with a yard and the best practices, or maybe your home doesn't have a yard. How can you actually exercise your green thumb and, you know, get some flowers cultivating, and maybe even some organic gardening. Stay tuned to Mika Ellsworth, Faith in Home Buying. Awesome. Yay!
Nice.
Hi, y'all. I'm telling you, this is a great subject. Faith, Grace, Hope Flowers, talking about just flowers and cultivation. I have some people on here that they have green thumbs like galore. And I think, you know, even with you talking about what we're going to talk about, you're going to give a little introduction to your business. And I would really like you to give just, you know, whether it be a phone number or, you know, anything that you want to, Facebook, Instagram, so that they can contact you and see what you have available. Because for me looking at it, it's a beautiful array of flowers that you cultivate. And, you know, I want people to be able to kind of, hey, knock on your door.
That'd be
Can I
great.
get some? Can I get
Great.
some? I'm in, weddings. Can I, get you some business? Right. So, all right. So, what is the next time frame?
10:45.
Okay, 10:45. 45. I went over a little bit on that. Okay, let's go. Hi, everybody. I don't know why that's on there. Yes, again. I don't know if it's that one again, though. Yeah, I think it's the next one a little shorter. Yep, that's no worries. That's the beginning. You guys can't hear this. He's playing the music for the intro. If you listen in on Saturday mornings at 9 o'clock, you'll be able to hear the whole thing edited. There you go. All right. So we are back again. Just kind of got through talking about Matthew 6:25 through 34. Don't worry. But in transition to that, I'd like to talk a little bit more about who you are, Jessica Woodworth. Owner and master cultivator, but owner of Grace Hope Flowers here in the Bay Area. And just to give a little background, like I met you, and like she's so interested in flowers, you don't understand. Like it's her life. Like when I met her, and our kids go to the same school, like she had soil still on her hands, still in her family, like that's the person I want to talk to about flowers, about cultivating anything. Because seriously though, like when you think about it, when a person's that passionate about something, they can't escape it, right? It's all over them. You see it, just like with God, just like with anything. And I'm like, she's the one I want to speak to. That's like when you talk about a cook or a chef, right? A lot of them there's certain characteristics that they have. You're like, I want to talk to you about, cooking. So ultimately, I want to talk to you about flowers and cultivating them because there's a lot of people that want to know. But tell us a little bit about yourself and how actually Grace Hope Flowers came about.
Okay. Well, I am a mother of 4 children, and my interest in plants actually started with them because I stayed home with them and took care of them and found that I was bored, kind of out of my mind.
Yep.
So we had just bought in a house here in the Bay Area, and my husband is an engineer, and he was at work, so I had to find something to kind of like that was really interesting to me, and I started getting into flowers, and it just kind of became an obsession, a passion. It started with flowers, and then I moved to vegetables, and then I moved to fruit trees, microgreens, like almost anything that someone can grow, right. I really got into.
Wow.
And I ended up turning my little suburban lot into like a little urban farm. I have chickens and compost pile, and I have 18 different fruit trees on my property. I have like a 6,000 square foot lot.
Wow.
So it's not big. It's on a court, so it's a little. It has some usable space. So yeah, I just crammed as much as I could into my little square footage, and then I read a book by Florette, who does like this flower farming up in the Pacific Northwest. Yeah, and it kind of like was an aha moment that, hey, maybe I could actually do this as a job.
Wow.
My kids are getting older. Most 3 of them are teenagers, so I found myself with more time, and so I just started. Last year, and I started growing flowers like as a business, as a job. I reunited with the pastor that married my husband and I 20 years ago. Reunited with him, and he had just bought in some property out in San Martin in the South Bay. and they weren't sure what they wanted to do with the property, and I was looking for land, and so it ended up being like just a perfect partnership.
Oh, that's so great.
Yeah.
Oh,
So-
but it's so great that how that kind of turns around and comes around, and oh God, I know there's some spiritual stuff there. But no, we're gonna stay with the practical, right? The practical right now. But that's encouraging. You know, I didn't. Well, I think even those that are listening to this, that you give hope in a lot of way. And granted, we're going to talk about how you got your name, but you give hope to those that are maybe stay-at-home moms right now, you know. But but that says something that's not necessarily everything that you are. I mean, I think I couldn't do it. Why? I need to do something, and there's something that I need to do. But it's very important, and those that have the grace to do it, I salute you. But I also salute those that say, you know what? How can I remake myself? What are things that I can actually pull on that I'm passionate about and actually go for it and create a business of? Because a lot of people have hobbies, right? But very few actually go in and say, you know what? I'm going to make this a business. I'm not going to just have a hobby. I'm going to take the next step, and I'm going to go forward with this. So I commend you on that, because there's a lot of people that are probably listening to it right now, moms, husbands at that, that hopefully it sparks something in them to get them to say, hey, maybe I can do something like that too, right? Maybe.
Yeah.
But how did the name Grace Hope Flowers come?
So I have 4 kids, and 2 of them are girls and 2 of them are boys. And my daughters, that's their name, their middle names are Grace and Hope. And just those characteristics of God mean a lot to me, which is why I named my daughters after it. And so when I was thinking of a name for my business, this is what I really wanted. And my sons have forgiven me for not including their names. I think it would have been way too much of a mouthful.
Right.
But yeah, they mean a lot to me. So.
Oh, that's so great. And they should feel really, really honored for that. All right, so let's get into, we talked about a little activation. Hope that activated someone too. But we get into education, and I think that's an important component to things. And we're going to start talking about that, right? So the biggest thing that I have, the challenges that I have with people that are looking for homes, especially first-time home buyers, right? They're looking for homes that possibly have a yard and that they can cultivate either a garden or flowers with, even vegetables and such, right?
Yeah.
What tips should they look for when looking for a home that actually has a yard?
So most plants need full sun. That just means like 6 hours of full sun a day. If you end up with a lot that has a lot of shade, that's okay. You can still grow a lot of different things that will thrive in that kind of environment. But if you're doing like vegetables, you know, think about tomatoes or most of the flowering plants that we think of, they do need full sun. So that is something that you can't really change about your lot. You can always change the soil and you can change the, you know, the water requirements, but you can't change how much shade is cast by the buildings. You know, we're in a big city, so there's always some kind of shade that's getting cast. So
Okay, so that's a big first one. So if you're looking for a lot, making sure that there's full sunlight, at least for 6 hours, in whatever area
yes.
on that lot for a yard, and looking for anything else to look for just a home and wanting to kind of cultivate flowers.
Well, if you're like me and you're kind of a plant nerd, you can never have too much space,
Okay.
quite honestly.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not always in the cards for all of us. So
Right.
with whatever it is that you end up, there's a lot of ways that you can go vertical. A lot of my fruit trees are grown against the fence in like a espalier, I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, manner, where it's like very flat against the fence. And just make sure that a lot of the plants that you end up picking, that they have dual purpose.
Okay.
So you know, fruit trees are beautiful, and then you get fruit too. And there's some of them that are pretty, and then they also have a scent. And there's some of them have like 3 different types of things that will give you. And just be really purposeful about what plants you have if you have limited space, because you don't have very much to choose from. So.
Got it. No, and that's good. So at least 3. You know, the sunlight, dual purpose is really, really good. Space, if you have it, but if not, there are other ways in which you can make it happen. And then obviously, probably more soil than concrete.
Yes, yeah. So
We'll talk about soil like later on. She's going to get some good tips about soil, but I'm assuming more soil
yes,
versus concrete.
yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There are some things you can do. If it's a lot of concrete, then you can build raised beds on top of that. It adds more work for you, but it can be done.
But it can be done,
Yeah.
all right? And so that brings us into, in our last part of this segment, what about homes that, for instance, condos, we have a lot of those, condos and townhouses. What about those and how we, if a person really wants to have a green thumb and exercise it, how can they do it in a condo or townhouse?
So if you have a balcony, there's a lot of container plants that you can grow on your balcony if you get enough shade, if you get enough sun. If it's shade, you can still grow that. Or if you have no balcony, you have a sunny window, there's a lot of indoor plants that you can do. I'm not as good about indoor plants. I end up killing all of them. So if you're like me and you just can't keep an indoor plant alive, it's okay. There is hope. You just keep on working on it.
Any names of any plants that would stand out to you that would probably work in that type of environment?
Like for container plants, almost anything. Almost anything, as long as the container is large enough to contain the root mass, you can pretty much grow anything in a container.
Mm-hmm. Now, what about flowers inside of a space like that? Would you be able to grow flowers inside of a townhouse condo?
Yeah, you can. I would probably stick with annuals. That just means that you'll have to replant them every year.
So annuals.
Annuals do best in pots and containers, but honestly, you could grow anything, even perennials and stuff like that, as long as you are aware of what that particular plant needs. If it needs shade, for example, a hydrangea, you could, just give it plenty of water and somewhere in shade with a large enough container for its roots, and it'll do fine for you.
Right, nice. We're going to continue on. We're kind of ending in this segment, but we're going to continue on, and we're going to talk a little bit more about specifically plants and how it can change the atmosphere, from smells to scents to colors, even possibly oils getting into. So stay tuned. We'll be right back. All right. Right. Okay. So yeah, so it's simple, right? Just conversation, again, the more, as your mind actually get through with the nervous system, the more specific you can be about like certain things or just names on stuff or plants or whatever, or flowers, the better. Because I'm sure when people are hearing this, they're kind of like, oh, sure, I could do that. Oh yeah, I could do that plant, So as it comes up, hopefully you're not too nervous. Mm-hmm. Hopefully this is good for some people. I think it is. Even though there's some on here I already know that have tuned in that have really, really great green thumbs. I mean, like, I'm serious. Like, I have a friend of mine, Vicky Robledo. I mean, she is just, like, her backyard is ridiculous, right, on what she can grow. Grow anything. But I think it's just, again, the ground and just her attention and detail that she has with it every single day out there growing, cultivating, watering, protecting, especially if it's cold and doing certain things. Like, it's so, it's like having, she doesn't have any kids, but I swear those are kids.
They are. The plant babies are
The plant babies. All right, so what are we looking at now for time?
On the third segment, 9:45.
So 9:45. So we have this segment and then one more afterwards. It's about 10 minutes. So this one we're going to cover, this segment, we're going to cover just creating environments. So we're going to take 9 minutes and talk about creating just environments of peace, especially all things that are going on even right now with people, and anxiety, which is huge, anxiety, depression. How can you best create and cultivate an environment specifically with some natural, organic, nature's producing flowers. How can we do that? And so that's what we're going to talk about.
Okay.
All right, let's go. Hi, everyone. Hi. Ask questions, comments, concerns. We'll get to you, believe me. Oh. All right, so we're back again with Jessica Woodworth, owner of Grace Hope Flowers. And you know what, Jessica, let the people know how they can get in contact with you or how they can reach out to you if they're interested in maybe asking questions, maybe even buying some flowers on multitude or, kind of big purchases and even small.
Yeah, so social media is probably the best place on Facebook and Instagram. I'm on there on Grace Hope Flowers, and my website's linked on both those sites. So yeah, I do bouquets and bouquet subscriptions for the general public, and I also sell to event designers and stuff like that. Mainly for weddings is my main purpose. I don't really design them. I'm not that much of an artist, but I love growing things, so that's where I concentrate. Yeah.
Exactly. No, I think that's great. So remember, Grace Hope Flowers, that's Facebook and Instagram. I'll have that tag also too on any other topics that we have, or not topics, but any other Facebook or social media outlets. But yeah, Grace Hope Flowers, go find her. But now, so let's dive into with our education component. Let's dive into creating environments with flowers. And one of the things that I found, and actually some of my clients, they really, it was a kind of a mandate by their doctor, and these are veterans that have probably dealing with PTSD, so it's a lot of like mental type of issues. But the thing about it is the therapy, the natural therapy, was actually needing to find space in order to garden. And I thought that, wow, that's actually kind of, wow, and that's what they wanted to do. Whether they had a whole lot of space or not, like if we had homes that actually had gardening, around it, they said, Tamika, I really like this because then I could just kind of take it over because, this is part of my therapy. So with that being said, so obviously there's a healing component, not only just with gardening, but just, I believe, with flowers as well. So smell, color. Let's talk a little bit about that, just so that how can people cultivate an environment in their household dealing with flowers?
Yeah, no, and scent is a huge
Right.
one. And there's several vines, for example, if you have a wall, or everyone pretty much has a wall in the city, you can cover it with a honeysuckle or a jasmine, or there's a lot of roses that smell incredible, especially the heirloom ones, David Austin and stuff like that. Lots of them to pick from, and you can do that either from a bush in a container, or you could do one that likes to ramble over the wall. So scent is really important. Even like sound is important as well when you're talking about the garden. There's a lot of water features, just like a little fountain. There's even small ones that people can do. Lately, I've been begging for wind chimes from my children for like 5 years, and I finally got some, and it just the sound of it just creates like a real sense of peace. And so when you have the sound and the scent, and when you think about the colors of the plants that you are choosing, of the flowers or what have you, try and think of like what do you want to convey? Like, do you want like a place that's really peaceful?
Right.
Then you think of a lot of lush greenery and white and soothing colors. Or if you want somewhere where it's a little bit more like exciting, if you're more of that kind of person that you like a lot of color around you, then you do more of the hot colors. You do red and orange and yellow, and so each garden like conveys a different mood that it's kind of applicable to however your personality is and what you are looking for.
No, that's great though, because smell does have. Now, are there certain plants that evoke different types? I'm sure there are different like types of smells, or not plants but flowers.
Yes, yeah. So there's gardenia. There's a lot of times if you think about essential oils or even like just hand lotion or what have you, everyone has their favorite hand lotion, right? Lavender or jasmine, rose. There's a lot of different ones, and so whatever it is that you are drawn to, maybe you think about planting some of those plants, and they'll be pleasing.
Right, and you mentioned also smell. So I know there's well, of course you mentioned smell because that's what we're talking about. But just oil. That's what it was. So the healing properties of oil. I'm just I have people that are probably listening right now that are very much the essential oil type of folks. But again, you can have oils too, because oils, they do come from plants.
Yeah. They do, and like, I don't know a whole bunch about essential oils, but lavender, for example, they pretty much crush it, and that's how they get the essential oil. So if you have the plant right there, and then it draws, bees, and just watching, like, the plant life, the wildlife, you can plant gardens that will attract birds, and if you're into bird watching, then you plant certain plants just to watch them eat the seeds of the plants. So it's kind of like, what are you interested in, and how do you want your garden to help you feel, in a way?
Right, I mean, that's just great. You use nature's, or already what comes natural in nature in order to kind of set your environment.
Yeah.
I think that's really, really, really cool. If you like birds, okay, plant some flowers and some plants in order to attract birds, and guess what? You get to watch them.
Or butterflies.
Butterflies.
Yeah, there's a lot that you can do. So if you are doing like a wildlife kind of environment, you have to be really careful about what kind of sprays you use, and just make sure that you garden organically. You don't want to end up killing the bees that you're trying to attract, and then end up killing them. So
Right.
just be mindful of it, and anything that's organic, pretty much you can use. So.
Exactly. No, that would be awesome. Like, I want butterflies.
Yeah, they are.
That
They're
would be
all
pretty
over
dope. I have a friend, Vicki, I was talking about. She actually has hummingbirds that come. Oh yeah, they're really, really cool. And actually, it comes and it's not afraid of people because it's been coming for so long.
Yeah.
And so you kind of can see it, and other ones try to go, but you kind of can tell which one is the actual hummingbird that comes there often. So I thought that was kind of cool. I mean, talking about since we're talking about home ownership and such, and even clients in plants and stuff, what's really important is curb appeal, right? That's huge. And believe it or not, actually believe it, just the visual, not only just the scent, the smell, just the sight of them actually evokes emotion. So for instance, coming into a home that has really great curb appeal. Now granted, the style of the home may not even be the best style that you think that you like, but if the curb appeal is really nice, I've had clients that just kind of look at that and say, I can overlook, the house, but if everything is planted and it's beautiful and it's lush, and even our no drought or low drought type of yards, but even if it looks nice, they're actually even more willing to want to go into the home or maybe even offer on it.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And even if your house doesn't have good curb appeal, that is something that is very easy to change.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, but you bring up a great point too. Like in home ownership, it's also those things as well. Like once you move into the home, right? Maybe it didn't have it, but you see there's potential for all of these things to happen. You're like, what? It may not have it now, but I'm going to elevate. And it's essentially low cost too. I mean, you can paint the house, but you do things in the yard, smaller things, even plants, and having color around does a big change. Talking about soil, which we'll talk about in the next segment. Talking about soil and being able to change the landscape of that, really low cost, effective. You don't have to pull out a whole lot of bushes. You don't, but if you plant around them and you have color, it makes a huge difference on your home and how you feel, even walking into at nighttime and daytime. It's very encouraging to know that, hey, you can use low-cost items and low-cost things and natural, organic stuff in order to change even the landscape of your home to make it more appealing. Not only to yourself, but hey, even if you're selling your home, that's definitely something you want to do because it is easy to do, right? And pictures make a huge difference on the selling property. And even when my clients look at homes, they say, "Oh my goodness, the pictures are so great," and then it's not what they seem. But thank goodness for pictures, because believe me, my clients probably would have passed up a lot of homes if it didn't have a lot of curb appeal. But in our next segment, in our last one, we're going to talk a little bit about soil and some processes that it takes when you're going from one home, maybe that you're renting, or that, from one home to another, and some good tips and practices to make sure that your plants and flowers actually live. So stay tuned to Mika Ellsworth, Faith in Home Buying, equipping people of faith for the home buying process. Hey, I'm trying to. If Joel was here, he'd be like, "Oh, I'm trying to hit it." Right on, good stuff.
Yeah.
How'd you feel about that?
Good.
All
Yeah,
right, all right.
Once I start nerding out.
No, okay, well, nerd the heck out, all you want to dealing with soil. So we have 10 minutes to talk about different things in soil, because I think it's important. Or, like, even things, like I heard that if you put, is it chlorine in the soil? I don't know, we're gonna talk about, not chlorine, there's like little things you can do in order to, like household stuff, like you can plant to the soil that is just naturally, different ways that you can water a plant that, you don't have to keep kind of watering it.
No, irrigation is
Yeah.
something I think that we should
Irrigation,
talk about.
and you can use a cup to have water and it slowly leaks into it or something. So we're going to talk about that in the next one, and I think and then that's pretty much it. And the last one is just kind of wrapping everything up. It's about 5 minutes after this one, but still about 10 minutes. So Paul, how long is this segment? 10:50. All right. Excellent. All right. Hopefully this is helping somebody. I see some people up there. Remember, if you have any questions, let me know. If I can't answer them now, believe me, I'm going to send them over to Jessica to answer. But I hope this is good information. I mean, everything that's going on in society and life right now, what better way to help calm anxiety and to have peace is by kind of changing and updating your environment, right? Like it's a low cost way is that you can change a lot of the atmosphere in your home space, especially since we're now spending so much time at home and people can't go out to.
There you go.
They can't go out to the office,
Yeah.
so you might as well make it peaceful at the house. I'll say that on air, but yes. So go ahead. Let's go for this second to last segment. Hi everybody. Flowers, plants. Jessica, yes. Grace, Hope, Flowers. All right, so we're back again. Grace, Hope, Flowers, Master Flower Cultivator, Jessica Woodworth. It's been great speaking with you. And just I need to give a shout out because sometimes I forget my own self. But if you need to get in contact with me, would like more information, or to be hooked up with Jessica, you can also contact me. My number is 408-561-7922, 408-561-7922, or you can catch me just on my website at TamikaEllsworth.com. Again, I love this topic. To give a little recap, I mean, we've talked a little bit about just cultivation, right? How to cultivate and best practices on choosing a home. Talked a little bit about, if you don't have a yard, what kind of things that you can do. So believe me, whether you have a yard or whether you don't, we can make it happen. You can grow some things, right? Also talked a little bit about creating environments with smell. The scent of things, the look of things, the different types of colors that you can have in order to evoke environment. And I just want to say this too. I kind of said it in the break, but now we're spending so much time at home now. We're forced to in a lot of ways. So why not, create an environment, especially with all the stress and anxiety going on. This is one of the reasons I thought, hey, this is kind of a cool topic, just to get people thinking. You're going to be spending a lot of time at home, especially those that are in office environments. And you may have loved going to work because they had plants, they had flowers, it looked good. We're over here in the modern urban, type of area. We're Silicon Valley, right? But you go home and you're like, oh, there's a lot different. So this is one opportunity for you to create space inside your environment that actually works, that can make a peaceful and calming environment, especially if you don't want to go out anywhere. We're going to be spending a lot of time at home. So again, you need some flowers. I think Jessica is the person you need to speak to. But lastly, Jessica, let's talk about soil, okay? Those of you that want to geek out on soil, she's going to do that. She's going to have like 8 minutes geeking out on soil. So, but it's good stuff. So tell me, so what is some good soil techniques, tactics, tips that you can leave people with today?
So, when talking about plants and flowers and what have you, the most important thing is the soil that they're growing in.
That'll preach.
Yeah, we like to think that it's just, we take this perfect plant that we
Yeah.
buy at Home Depot or what have you, and then
Yeah.
we put it in the ground, and then 2 weeks later it's dead or
Right.
it's struggling. The soil is it's just really, really important. there are ways you can get your soil tested. You can kind of geek out on all the particulars of it. You could also just, compost is like the number one thing that you can add to your soil that will improve it. And you can pretty much add that every year. Usually in the fall is the best time to add it, and that way it can kind of sit and let the earthworms do its thing through the winter, and then in the spring when you're ready to plant your plants, it's all ready to go. You can buy compost. There's a lot of places that you can buy compost from, or you can make that at your home. There's a lot of composting material that you can just Google. It's really easy to get going in your compost. Pretty much you just take all your leftover food stuff and you put it in a pile somewhere.
You don't give it to the dog?
Well, yeah. Well, that's an important distinction. Don't ever put meat or oils or anything like that in your compost, because then you'll end up having raccoons.
So I would have jacked that up.
That would end up smelling really ripe really soon. No, so any vegetables.
Okay, so vegetables. Like eggshells, right? Same thing.
Eggshells. Yeah. And sometimes
biodegradable.
So just, and coffee grounds, all of that will kind of mix in. You do kind of need like leaves and stuff like that to just make it not quite so green. They say green and then brown.
Okay.
Just kind of, and you kind of want a balance between those and keep it kind of moist, the compost, and just let it do its thing for like a year, and then you can use it. Or if you don't have that kind of time and you're not really into composting, then just go buy it and add it to your flower beds, and they'll appreciate it. So after you get your soil kind of situated, if you are going to spend money on it, I would really recommend that you spend money on irrigation and it's really simple to set up an irrigation system, even though it sounds all complicated and it's intimidating for most of us. It's actually just kind of like a simple thing. You just want to bring water from one place to another with little tubes and stuff like that. If you're not really into that, then hire someone, any landscaper worth its salt. Like, they know how to install it, and they should just pay attention when they're doing it so that you know how to fix it. But irrigation is the one thing. That's where I would spend my money. Irrigation and soil, and then you can get into the fun stuff of the plants and what kind of plants you're going to plant where. But I would really concentrate on those two things to make sure that you get those right.
Right. So the soil and the irrigation.
Yeah.
That was so preaching really well. How interesting. Look, I just want to take a sidestep for that in a little bit. And I have to, because it's just like, whoa, for real? That's what happens? Like with compost, right? In order to create good soil, right? Which, in a lot of ways we are, right? There's a year we're kind of worth of waiting and some of the scraps and the leftovers and things that need to be broken down in the soil in order to create good soil. How interesting it is that even in us in our life, being good soil, when the seed gets planted in good soil, a lot of breakdown that happens inside of our life, and it takes time, for that to happen. So that when the word hits and when the seed hits the soil, it actually has good ground to grow on, right? Because the Bible talks about when the seed hits the soil, the worries of life will choke it up. Different things will drown it out. But if you have good soil, that seed would sprout and would plant. And what's interesting is that you talked about irrigation with water, Holy Spirit. And so how much more so for that seed to get cultivated and for that soil to be good and be moist, which is the Holy Spirit, which is usually indicative of water, right? In our lives, and being able to have that flow through us and come through us like that wellspring of life. That would preach.
Yeah.
If you didn't catch that, I hope you did, because how awesome is that, right? But it's if we think about all the things, it should happen really, really quickly. But even something like soil, takes a while to break down and takes time in order for it to be good. So those of you that are going through processes in season, that'll preach to you. Like even soil in its natural state, right? And us looking at it in a spiritual state, it takes time. And so don't think that something's going to happen overnight, especially if it's not being watered, especially if things are not being broken down, and it's not going to happen just like that. So be encouraged.
That's right. And it's messy.
Yeah.
Compost and soil, it's bugs that
And
break
it's
it
smelly.
down. You know, it's smelly,
Yep.
it's messy, and that's kind of how we are too.
That's right.
It's like in order to get to that beauty and to that peace and that, beautiful flower that we're looking for, it has to be messy and it has to
Oh,
be
that's so good.
just down in the dirt.
That's
down
so
in the dirt.
good. That's so good. And sometimes in dark places, sometimes in isolated places too. Not so much though, because you still have a gardener tending over it, right?
That's
So
right.
you're not by yourself. You still have someone actually watching, having an eye over it. Can't just like let it, sit and go. No, you still have to till it. Still
Yeah.
have to. And just again, when I see you, just like I had saw a carpenter before, and he was just so in tune with his work, as I see Jesus with us being his workpiece and his mastership. He's a master carpenter, right? And I see you, and then like you see the soil. That's all. It's on your hands. It's on you. It's in you. How much more so is the image of just Christ and looking at us and just being a part of the creation, right? It's so in tune. So that just shows me that He's in everything that it is. I mean, it's a part of who God is. We are a part of everything that God is, and it's just how much He's in the process. When you look at a painter, a lot of times, you look at a sculptor, you can tell by their hands what they are involved with and what they're passionate about. And I think that's just the coolest thing to see, and just the kind of the representation of that we are so that God tends this ground so much that the imprint of you is always on His hands, right? Oh, how awesome is that?
There's so many parables that
Yeah.
just echo the
Oh yeah.
soil and
Mhm.
growing, and because that was the community that he was talking to. They,
Yes.
through all the ages,
Right.
we've always been farmers. We have to
Right.
live off the land, and so that's how he chooses to communicate a lot of stuff so that we can understand it.
Exactly, but I think it goes to today too. So much so we have things that are just kind of done for us. But sometimes you have to go back to, again, back to how did people? Yeah, they sure did live that way. They didn't have things just kind of delivered to them. It was a little bit more hard work, and some of the things that they did. So the example is that way, and you learn a lot more from those examples, and it makes sense because that is right. Everything wasn't microwave. Didn't have microwaves at that time.
Or Amazon.
They didn't have that. I mean, like honestly, like, if I want a bouquet of wildflowers, I can easily just send it, right? Versus just like having to grow it. So, but thank you so much, Jessica. I think this has been some great information, and I know, God, man, there's little things talking about soil. I wish we had more time to talk about it, but when we come back, we're going to tie everything up and give you one more chance to give out your information for folks. But again, let's stay tuned, and we're going to wrap everything up. But it's been a great conversation, not just about plants and the practical, but just the cultivating of your life as well. Plants are just a part of it. We'll be right back.
Sliding right there.
Yeah,
Gonna be some plants today, right now.
that's what I'm talking about. They're smelly, they're messy, it's dirty, it's a dirty process.
It
That's
is.
so good. I'm so glad that you mentioned that, because it is. It's a very dirty process,
Yeah.
but in the end, what comes out of it is just beauty.
Yeah.
Especially the fields that you see. Like, it's just, I was looking at some of your pictures, and I'm like, God dog, just the rows of just beauty, but it didn't just happen like that.
Yeah, and that's where we want to jump to all the time.
Yeah.
We just want the beautiful.
I just
we
want the beautiful.
easy. We want the pain to be done, but life isn't like that. And
Exactly.
we don't grow by instantaneous. We're not.
No, we don't.
Yeah.
And what happens though? Like, remember, they try to speed up things. I'm sure they do try to speed up the process, like in labs and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Does it produce the same?
No, then they're flavorless. They're
Ah!
they're like an echo of what they should be.
Okay, we're gonna talk about. Okay, let's pause that real quick. Did you hear that? I hope you heard that. But that's the truth, though, right? We want to try to get it quick, but it does not have this. Probably doesn't have the same potency as it does, even with the smell or the type of plant. Or it's just flavorless when it comes to certain things. It's not the same. Trying to do it in a quick, or controlled, environment, right? It doesn't happen like that. And usually, if you don't go through the process and you're like, God, just bless me and give me my destiny now, and not have me go through a process. When you get it, is it sustainable? Not necessarily. It's not. Usually, it isn't, because you haven't went through a process, and 100%, and it's an uphill battle if you haven't dealt with a process. Okay, so yeah, so this last segment is about 5 minutes. Is it 5:15? 5:15.
You want like a 2 or 3 1?
Yeah, because I know this one I have to have pretty much like on it. Yeah, yeah, 5.
So let's start, it'll be 5.
Yeah,
So do you like a 2?
2. Yeah, 3, 1, 30.
1:30, all right.
Yeah. So 5, 15. So you having fun yet?
Yeah.
So it sounds like it's almost done. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I know, right? Okay, let's go. Hi, Sergio. Hi, you guys. Plants. Go through the process. We're going to end it with that. All right. You know what? I'm having so much fun in talking about this particular topic. I didn't even know I was going to have this much fun, but I knew, gosh, there were such teaching moments. Even just talking about equipping people with faith for the home buying process in, okay, plants and gardening and stuff, but there's just so much more that you know, this topic entails, and I wish we had so much more time, but I'm thankful that you came in to visit with us. One more time, let the people know how they can get in contact with you, Jessica.
So my sites on Facebook and on Instagram is Grace Hope Flowers. You could email me gracehopeflowers@gmail.com. Yeah, just there's a lot of different ways.
And if anything, Tamika Ellsworth, you can contact me, 408-561-7922. Again, that's 408-561-7922. That's for those that said I need to just slow it down. But but to wrap everything up, we talked about in the break, oh my God, we had a great conversation, but like it's just to wrap things up, like even this process, you know, it's dirty. It's messy, like soil planting. It's dirty. It's messy. It can be smelly at times, a little gross, you know. But in the end, and you said something very, very great. Like in the end, the beauty that it produces is worth it.
Yeah, and that process has to go through that uncomfortable, sometimes painful process. You have to go through it in order to get the reward that we want. We're such an instant gratification kind of society. But good things take time.
That's right. No, and that's great. Good things do take time, and we are good things. And you know, each person that does go through those type of moments, and you may be going through that your own self. And I'm going to take a pivot real quick. Like you may be going through that yourself. Like, you know, why haven't the flowers bloomed? Why haven't I bloomed yet? Right? And it's just an encouragement. Like if the flowers of the field, the lilies of the field, God cares so much about them, and knowing that in the end, the process that they take is going to be beautiful, and they're going to bloom bright, they're going to smell extravagant, and they're going to look beautiful. Like how much more so the process that you're going through, that God's cultivating the soil. It's messy, it's dirty, it's gross sometimes, but in the end, you're going to turn out to be something beautiful. So stay in the process. Let the soil continue to cultivate itself. It takes time. Water yourself with the Word of God. Water yourself with the Holy Spirit. Water yourself with just the overwhelming spring of life, so that it overflows, so that irrigation that happens can flow around even those around you. Watering them also too with the Word of God. I think it's kind of awesome. But yeah, I mean, gosh, just
He's a master gardener.
that's what I'm
He
talking
does
about.
it, yeah.
Yes, no, it's so good, and I'm so thankful again for the time that you've come here. And again, people, please reach out. You know, even if you have just questions. I mean, there's a lot of people I know that are probably listening right now that you know, again, they have green thumbs, and we couldn't get up to all of it today. We just can't. You know, we have limited time, but you know, I would hope that you would reach out to Jessica, and even to my own self, and you know, those that you know are in the process of finding a home. I kind of say this every week, but you know, if you're on the fence with dealing with faith, you know, I'm here to help. I'd love to walk you through the process. And you know, those that you know, hey, I don't need any faith to me. I kind of got this. I'm going to look for my home now that has a garden I can do. I want to help you too, so I'd love to journey with you and help you pick out that home that you can sit here and have a great garden with, or that condo or townhouse that you can create that wall of urban organic gardening, or you know, and then we have Jessica at our fingertips. We can always call her, hey Jessica, can you come over here? Can you look at this real quick and kind of tell us what we can do in this space? But I want to work with you too. But I appreciate you, everyone. Remember, you can catch me at TamikaEllsworth.com. You know I'm on American Dream Television. That comes out pretty much once a month, Thursdays at 7, streaming on Roku, Apple Television, Apple TV, and Amazon. You can catch that on my website, and hopefully I get to interview someone like Jessica and have a really awesome, kind of having that in the back of my mind. Since being springtime, but still small businesses, people around that are doing great things in the community. I really want to give them a highlight in the platform, and also to some beautiful homes and some beautiful clients that I happen to frequent on an oftentimes. So again, thank you so very much for tuning in. Hopefully you've learned some tips and some tricks that flowers, you probably got a little bit more of a hat on, knowing that, hey, there's some more things that I could do with flowers. But stay tuned for next week. I got some pretty exciting stuff happening. And then, again, this is Tamika Ellsworth. Thank you so much. And, we just equipped some people of faith for the home buying process. All right, everyone. God bless. Yay!
Good job. Thank you, Tamika.
Yay!
I should have said that on there, too.
Huh?
I missed my chance.
What?